Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take, on the various miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. I actually think it's only been a week this time, and we don't have that many models to go over, but because we have Big and Nasty on the end there to talk about, I thought, hey, why not, we'll do one this week as well, just to talk about some stuff that's important for the games. Plus you've seen some of them already because some of them have been used in battle reports. So we have Batman the miniature game, we have Fallout Wasteland Warfare, we have Gotham City Chronicles, we have Marvel Crisis Protocol, we have Don't Look Back, and we have Star Wars Legion with Tall and Ugly at the end there to talk about. So we'll go from left to right. I'll be pausing as always to throw toys for the dog who's about to nudge the camera. Oh no, she missed. Good. And then yeah, we'll get started. Alright, one throw layer. This is her now resorting to using non-violent resistance, her accidentally nudging the camera when I don't immediately throw the toy. Anyway, we have from the new The Batman themed starter set for Batman the miniature game, we have the Batizin, as he is known by the fan base, and we have the Catwoman from that movie. Let's talk about Catwoman first, even though I painted them in the other order. Not as happy about with how the Catwoman came out, so that's why we're covering her nice and quick. I never have much luck with the Catwoman miniatures that exist for this game. I've never successfully painted one and been like, yeah, that turned out well. But this one's okay. She's hanging with a grapple line from a half-broken gargoyle. It is meant to be broken, I think, because it is missing like half an ear. But in terms of contrast paints used, everything based in grey cere as always. But this is mostly Black Templar with Basilicanum Grey doing the work here. And then while it was damp, just to give that kind of weird lighting effect, both of which is in the movie. And also just in the official paint job, used a little bit of Volupus Pink while it was damp, mixed it in. Black Templar for the cats as well, and a little bit of Storm Vermin fur over the top just to make it not look as streaked on the base, on the tiles or whatever she's meant to be on. Not much else. Fire Slayer Flesh, it's hard to say. Are you scratching my carpet because I'm not throwing a toy? I think the ball was stuck underneath something actually and she's getting rebellious. I'm going to have to go get that in a second. Do I have anything else to say about this? Fire Slayer Flesh, for what little of her skin you can see, I opted for the version with her hood on and a tiny bit of Blood Angels Red for her lipstick. That is it. Not super happy with how it came out. I'm going to go rescue the dog's toy before we talk about Batman. Sorry. She was being smart. There wasn't one but two balls hidden under the same thing. She's long since taken off their skin. That's not weird or anything. Anywho, the Batman. Bit happier with how this one turned out, although when I was doing it I was just endlessly frustrated because I felt like the detail in the armour was not being picked up enough. And speaking of which, he's not coming into focus enough either. Give him a second. He's working the turkey through. There we go. So, much the same colours as I used for Catwoman. I did a dry brushing of Leadbelcher Silver because his armour is quite shiny and bulletproof. Same Volupus Pink on the Basilicanum Grey base. And it is on the cape as well. It looks a little different on the cape just because that's the black against the grey, so it turned out a little different. And Warp Lightning Green question marks, Nurgling Green question marks, on top of a little bit of Warp Lightning lighting for it to create some, Riddler things. Just because Riddler's, the main antagonist, sort of. And he'll be coming into the game soon with a movie-themed miniature that they've shown off. So I thought just hint at that a little bit. And Leadbelcher Silver for the girders. And all in all, I'm happier with it now than when I was doing it. I think it's okay, and Gulman Flesh for his trademark chin of course as well. I love the miniature in general. That's the first one I painted from the box because I just really wanted to paint him. So I think it turned out okay. Again, from that kind of distance is what I'm talking about. He looks imposing. I did opt to do the larger cape. Like this section of the cape from here to here is optional. It's a separate piece that kind of goes into there. The only problem is if you don't include it, he's missing part of his collar, right there. But if you didn't want him to have as big a cape, it hides that much, which makes it a bit more in line with how it is in the movie. It's still a bit too long, but not as billowy. Although the billowiness looks kind of cool. That's why I opted to go with it in the end rather than leave it out. That and it not forming around his collar. Although I guess you could just use green stuff to make a collar. But either way, love the miniature. Probably my favourite from the starter set. And I'm focusing on getting the Batman side of it done first. Got the cops assembled, haven't started painting them yet though. So from another box from Wasteland Warfare, which the Knight in Power Armor last time came from, we have three. I think these are called Knights as well, they just don't have power armor. or maybe they're squires. I don't remember the nomenclature for the various types of Brotherhood of Steel, sorry. But 3 of them, same equipment, same armor, same pose, so I'll just show them off what I'm talking about in general, how I painted them. Hopefully in focus, that seems like it. So a lot of lead belcher silver in this one, so not as much contrast work. The contrast work came in the form of Blood Angel's red on the parts of the like undersuit they're wearing, and then Agrat's Earthshade over the top. A little bit of Militarum green on their plasma guns, laser guns, sorry. And the yellow streaks are just Army Painter yellow, whatever that's called, Valero I think, something like that. So we have just 3 kind of like grunt troopers for the Brotherhood of Steel, and with their completion I basically am ready now to get started on the 2nd season. I had some Brotherhood of Steel stuff planned. We're going to incorporate that as a result of how season 1 ended, but it is going to be into July for sure, because I haven't even like laid out quest options. I have a rough idea how I want to start it, and that's it. So need to pull the finger out and get started on that quite soon, I think. So from Gotham City Chronicles, we have Deathstroke and we have Scarecrow. The Scarecrow has already been in a battle report, so let's show this off quickly. That's a lot of white warp lightning on the... oh, come on. Camera's having some difficulties today. There we are. Warp lightning green on the billows of fear gas that he's unleashing. That is Plaguebearer flesh for his shirt and Wildwood for his trousers. I hope that it's picking up every time the dog gets impatient. She picks up the ball and puts it, like drops it immediately where she is, just to try and get my attention. The mask he's wearing, I was trying to copy like the semi-official paint job in terms of like what he looks like on his card. So that's just the base coat with Agrat's Earthshade over the top. And that's about it for him. Very impressive looking mini though. I always meant to get around to doing this mini even if I hadn't gone back to the game, which we're playing a little bit of. And on that note, you will already have seen, I think, the battle report where Slade was used. Opted again to try and copy the official paint job, so I didn't use orange for him, I used yellow, which is the first time I've done that for a Deathstroke, and you know, yellow paint, is, especially contrast, is very hit and miss. I think it turned out okay. I'm not too keen on this costume for him or this pose, but a lot of Yandin yellow, a little bit of Ultramarines blue for his chest, and Black Templar for the rest. So yeah, I think you will have already seen the video where he appears. For the next one I want to do, I have to paint up a couple more villains, so we'll see when that happens. I'll try and get around to it. Again, I'm kind of focusing on the Batman miniature game more so than Gotham City Chronicles at the minute in terms of stuff being painted, but if enough people are watching and enjoying the return to Gotham City Chronicles, that'll kind of bump up the list of when they actually get done. So next we move on to Marvel Crisis Protocol, the new Black Order releases. Let's see if I can get them right this time. This is Supergiant for sure, she's already appeared in a battle report, and this is not Black Lotus, this is Black Swan. So there's some similarities between the two of them in terms of like how I did the whites. So let's just take a look at this as the dog gets very impatient. First of all, for the kind of energy that's making her hover even though she doesn't have the flight roll, I've started with Shylaish purple around the base, and then mixed in Volupus pink, and then it's just pink at the top. So just created a gradient basically while it was damp, and I kind of like how it turned out, and it sort of matches the official paint job. You can model her with a hood or without. I opted with just because I thought it looked better. Her skin tone is Talisar blue. Presumably she's the same race as Proxima Midnight, but I don't know because I'm not familiar with this character. And for the white, grey sear base, and then a little bit of non-oil over the top, but that brought it down too much, so then over the top a little bit of edge highlighting and dry brushing again with grey sear. I would say if you have a pure white paint, because grey sear isn't pure white, it's kind of off-white, that would have been better, but I don't have a good one of those. I think I have an old pot of ceramic white by Citadel, never liked it, it does not mix well. But yeah, either way, that's how I did that on her armor. Her armor has more of the non-oil on top without bringing it back up with the base coat. The cape does not. Deliberately left shadow in some places, but mostly went over it again with grey sear just to brighten it back up. And I think it worked out. There's also tiny bits of yellow on her wristbands. I'm not quite sure what they are. Again, just kind of copying the official art. And yeah, I kind of like how she turned out. Supergiant, I'm not so sure on. I am not at all familiar with her. I'm also not entirely sure what she's tearing apart, but I think it's like one of Tony Stark's bots or something. That's what it looks like. It looks like his rescue bots from Age of Ultron in the cinematic universe, but I don't think it is that. But it's painted like that, so I'm running with it. So for her, she has white hair, she has pale white skin, but they're different shades. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do with that? So I have the base grey seer, and I mostly just used that with her hair. And again, kind of did the same thing. A little bit of Nono, just a tiny bit, spread it really thin, and then bring it back up with more grey seer on top so there's still some shadow, but it's brighter. And then for her skin tone, apply the non-oil a little thicker. So you get two shades out of the same paint, essentially, just with the wash being applied differently. So that's what I did for her. Black Templar for her armor, a little bit of silver, and Talisar blue. The robot, I opted to be that the, like, you know how the aliens androids are filled with milk? Whatever this thing is, I've decided that it's filled with blue juice. So she's kind of spread blue juice across the base here as she's kind of ripped its arm off. I imagine it, you know, splatting as she swings it. So I kind of like that effect. Again, I don't know what it's meant to be. I painted it in Lead Belcher silver, Talisar blue for where it's leaking, and it had a yellow shoulder blade. So I just used a quick bit of a Yandin yellow on top of the silver to try and create that effect. Hopefully that's picking up. So yeah, she will be getting her... oh yeah, she has red eyes because she has laser eyes. So again, copying the official paint job as best I could. She will be getting her debut in the next battle report filmed, so you'll be seeing that after this because it's not filmed yet. But the two of them will be together with, I think Thanos and... definitely Thanos, just to try him out versus Corvus's new leadership. Either way, it'll be sometime in the future, but you'll see those two in the next Marvel Crisis Protocol video. So as we move on to the two miniatures from Don't Look Back, if you're curious about what you can see up here that you usually can't see, and those miniatures over there, that's all Gotham City Chronicles. It takes up a massive amount of table space. It's encroaching on the half of the table I use for unboxings and painting updates. So anyway, these two have already been in a Don't Look Back video. They are from the Final Girls expansion, which adds 4 female characters of different horror movie stereotypes. This is Dr. Granger. She is a psychiatrist. Again, just trying to match up the official paint jobs. Guilliman Flesh. Wildwood for her hair, Blood Angels Red for her lipstick, Snakebite Leather for her notepad, and Basilicum Grey applied in 2 thicknesses for her dress and coat. So once for the coat, twice for the dress. And I think the same for her shoes, even though you can't see them now because of the flock. So, simple enough. She was super easy and quick. And then this is Kat, the skateboarder wearing the Aliens t-shirt, which will come into focus, and when it's out of focus it looks like the Batman logo, but then you see it's actually an alien face. Warp Lightning Green for her very overly large sweater with some, that's just Valero, the Army Painter yellow, whatever it's called, over the top. Didn't want to use contrast for that. Black Templar for everything that's black. Space Wolves Grey for her denim jeans. Blood Angels Red for the other side of the skateboard, and black for her shoes as well. And again, just some flock and just an attachable Army Painter bush as well, just to create a little bit of flavour. So there's still 2 more ladies to paint from that set. Lower priority because Don't Look Back doesn't have a massive audience, just like playing it once ever so often. But enough about that. As I throw the ball one more time, it is time to talk about the ATSD. So I don't know how I'm going to get this entirely into frame, but let's just hold it here for now so I can talk about it. Picked it up in a sale a while back before AMG raised the prices of Star Wars Legion because I like ATSDs. I think they're pretty neat. There's a funny episode of Mandalorian Season 1 involving an ATSD that I liked a lot. So I picked this up, and I think this is an important lesson, especially if you're not good at painting like I am. So, did I say that the right way? I'm trying to say I'm bad at painting, but I get around it with contrast paint. So if you're also not good at painting, there's an important lesson that you learn with stuff like this, of this scale, which is that sometimes less is more. So most of what you're seeing here is just the base coat. Like, it is just a base coat that I added to a little bit. But I only added a little, and I started to add a lot. I started to do washes, and I was going to be adding contrast paint to sections of it. And then I was like, no, this is looking much worse. So I redid the base, and then just added to it ever so slightly. And I think the finished effect is 1,000,000 times better than if I'd stuck with what I was originally planning. Especially because it's got so many flat edges, and you know, not a lot of curves or recesses for contrast to go into. It would not have looked as good. It also gave me a chance to try out a spray from Citadel. I haven't tried out for, well, I must have used it for something because the spray can was used. I have no memory of what I used it for, but this is a shade of grey I don't use much. It's brighter than Storm Vermin, it's brighter than their other greys. It's called Standard Militarum, or no, Standard Mechanicus, I think. You can get it in pots as well, it's not just a spray. I'm going to pick up a pot though, because I actually really like this shade of grey, and I think it's perfect for what the ATSTs look like. But I did do a little bit to it, just tiny little bits. I did use contrast Black Templar on the barrels of his weapons. Oh, and that reminds me, after assembling it, I sadly noticed as I was looking for references for ideas for what to paint it like, and that's another tip. If you're not sure what to do, just look and see how other people painted them. This gun is on upside down, and sadly I didn't notice until it was way too late, so it should be round the other way. Doesn't really matter, kind of makes it look like the ATST's got a mouth. I hate it now that I see it, unfortunately. I didn't notice at the time, and I was following the instructions, so I don't have an excuse, I just didn't notice. It was just a lapse for a second. So that gun is on upside down, and there's a little, I think that's a missile launcher on this side. But anyway, in terms of what I actually did to beyond the spray, Black Templar on the battery there as well, and some of the wires you can't even really pick out. All I really did was take some of the Army Painter dried rust and apply it just very, very gently, just super gently, because I do all my Star Wars Legions, as you will have seen, on kind of like a desert looking bases. Like I've done that for all of them that I painted from Star Wars Legion. So I was like, well, if there's an ATST in that kind of environment, it's going to be a little bit rusty. So I just used that very sparingly. I would say it's slightly too thick there for the rest of the miniature, but, well, miniature model. But everywhere else it just creates that little bit of aged look, or that it's been in a sandy, dusty environment. Just enough so it's not just a base coat, it's just a little bit of flavour. I did use a little bit of Agrat's Earthshade to look like oil or like gunk was leaking out of the rivets and the fans and the engines at the back here, and then a little bit of dust and a little bit of what did I use down there? I think I used Agrat's Earthshade on the feet just to make it look like they've been walking through like a bunch of muck, and then also some of the dried texture paint, which is what this is from Citadel, and then just some Army Painter bushes stuck to it as well. You can still see the quadrants for arcs for the purposes of firing their weapons and such, which is needed for gameplay. You've still got these bits that you fit the movement tools into. And beyond that, I'm really happy with it. And again, I think it taught an important lesson to me anyway, that sometimes less is more. This would have looked worse if I'd tried to use contrast paint. Sometimes all you need is a can of spray and a couple of dry brushes, and it turns out so much better. So happy with it, but obviously made a mistake with the gun. That gun does move incidentally, it's just a little bit stuck because of the paint, but it does move, but it's the wrong way around. So it didn't come out perfect, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the look of it, and yeah, I recommend that grey. That's a very nice grey. I don't know why I like that grey more than like any other grey, because Storm Vermin is usually my go-to for greys, but that one I really, really like for whatever reason. Can't explain it, just do. So that is going to cover it for another painting update. Next time, definitely more of the starter set, the Batman starter set. More Gotham City Chronicles if I get around to painting the two villains I need to paint up for the next one I have planned. I do have more Star Wars Legion in general because I found a good deal on the newest faction they added to the game called the Shadow Collective. I do have the box, but I think it's slightly out of reach. Oh, wait. Oh, almost. So I did manage to pick up, that's way too close to camera, you know, there. At the back there, the Shadow Collective box, which is just every one of their new units barring one commander, optional commander, in a box. Even if you pay full price, you're essentially getting one box of the new units for free, but I found it for a very good price. If you just turn here, that's the 3 units you get: the Pike Syndicate, the Black Sun, and the Shadow Collective Mandalorians, along with a Darth Maul leader. So again, I have no intention of playing Star Wars Legion anytime soon. I just like the miniatures from it, and I couldn't resist such a nice price on the newest faction they added. But Empire is still the most interesting of them, I think, in terms of the lists I've painted for, other than like generic characters from others. So I'm not saying you'll see any of them immediately, because again, it's low priority. The ATST was a result of my impatience while waiting for the Batman starter set to arrive. I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to tackle that ATST, stop putting it off. But anyway, I've already lost my train of thought. I was supposed to be talking about what you'll see next time. Beyond that, it's just going to be a surprise. So anyway, if you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to do so on Twitter. The link is below. And with that, I'm going to do a really short version of the outro. Thank you for watching. Ta-ta for now.